Hello, welcome to another interview with First Baptist Church. Today we are talking to Anna Braun, who is the chaplain at Lethbridge Correctional Centre. Hello, Anna. How are you?
Hi, Mark. I'm great. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well. So, Anna, being chaplain at Lethbridge Correctional Centre, some people might have questions about what does that involve? What's kind of the role of a chaplain at a correctional center?
Um, in good and bad times, this year aside and included, a chaplain provides spiritual care and guidance for inmates and staff and helps provide a stable voice, sometimes in moments of distress. So we may do things like death notifications or support after a death notification, one-on-one interviews, and spiritual care. We lead services and coordinate volunteers and also interact with the community to make sure that we have people supporting people when they get out, or staff as they come across issues that they'd like to deal with, or just to have friendship for the continuing journey.
Hmm.
So that in a nutshell.
Yeah, in a very large nutshell. So,
Very,
yes,
very
always.
concise. Yeah.
I'm sure it's always expanding. So this has been a very curious year to say the least. In terms of your experience of kind of 2020 and 2021 so far, what things would you say would be significant from the past year in your own life personally?
So in my personal life, I have a family with 6 children, husband, all the pets and everything. So that's affected us in multiple ways as a family, as kids came and went from school. The summer was its own interesting adventure. We had plans to go visit family this past fall. All of those things changed. Not always for bad, though. It was really nice. Mother's Day, we still went down to Writing on Stone, and I had an adventure there. Over the summer, we got to do a lot of different things together that we might not have taken the time for if we'd been running here and there. The children lost their sports activities and things like that and their other activities. So we had to get a little creative. And I think it's turned out okay. They're good and ready to go back to school last week.
Yeah.
Or rather,
Yep.
as were we to send them just so that we could space.
Yeah.
But it was a lovely, actually really enjoyed seeing them and being around them a lot more this year. So I continued to work through that process. So there's different things along those lines. But
Yeah.
yeah, it was,
Yeah, I think for a number of families, they've been really pleasantly surprised of like, oh, we actually really like each other, and that's been a that's
yeah,
been a good thing and a big relief. So that's
yeah,
it's been good to have that experience. But it is, I mean, there definitely has been a lot of things we miss and have lost as
yeah.
well. Yeah.
And we've been really blessed because we live out in the country a little bit more, and so they had space to run and go. And with 8 of us in one house, we were very happy for that. But also just to be able to find our own space and the things that we really enjoyed doing.
Mm,
That was good.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Now, in terms of vocationally, and in terms of dynamics for people that either work within or are in Lethbridge Correctional Center, how would you describe the past year in that way?
It was uh, it was a journey. Normally, our center thrives on volunteers being part of the picture. We would have 130 volunteers rotating through, running 14, 15 services a week with the volunteers and all of those things. So that was a huge hit when we first lost volunteers. It was a lot of scrambling, trying to figure out what are we going to do. But after a bit, Chaplain Don and I readjusted our schedules a little bit and kind of got into a rhythm. We are still running 14 services a week, mostly in small group styles. Not like you go to a church.
Hmm.
Those it was never quite like that, where when you go to church you have the big service. But the word is opened. People are learning. They're growing. We miss singing.
Mm,
Uh, even within the correctional center, each unit is considered a cohort. And so they're able to hang out together and to eat together and to come to services together. We can't mix any of the units. And so things have pretty much stayed the same that way for us. We all have masks. I'm now wearing goggles or the special glasses to lead a service as well. But that part has stayed. What changed for inmates along the way, when things first hit with COVID, there was a lot of fear.
Mm,
Really big fear for their families on the outside as well. And I spent a lot of services in Chaplain Dawn as well, just kind of telling the truth of what was going on, uh, but also alleviating some of the extra fears that were there. And then watching and waiting with people. Some of them did get notifications that their family got sick. Some of them lost family. And so walking through the grief for staff, inmates, as we all had to adjust to different things and different views and opinions on what was
mm,
appropriate.
mhm,
And it's been a journey, but it's also been one I've been so impressed to see the grace that people have offered each other.
mm,
It seems to be the biggest thing,
yeah.
even though there could be wildly different opinions, uh,
Mhm,
chapels within groups. Um, People have been pretty gracious actually,
mm,
and looking out for each other. I've seen some fantastic things with people checking in
mm,
and growing, learning, and seeing where the others need to grow and learn too. So that's been good.
mm, yeah. Yeah, I think we see that there's a lot of anger going on, but at the same time, there has been a lot of grace that people, I mean, I think sometimes the anger is kind of the big overarching thing, but in the small
Hmm.
relationship stuff is where we see the grace show up, right? Like I
Yeah,
know even little things
absolutely.
like when people were learning technology for the first time, people found that people were gracious with each other, right? Like they were patient with each other.
Yeah,
We're all in a place
yeah.
in a bunch of different ways where we're all learning and need that. So that's really awesome that that's happening where you work and where you experience community too. So yeah. Um, so what kind of projects have been going on that have been, I guess, life giving or good or positive or moving in a good direction that you've been involved with?
Mm. Well, there's been, I mean, some of it's the day-to-day things that you just didn't have time for before. We finally got our new chapel music book done very early on.
Mm,
Uh,
hmm.
but it's done for when the volunteers come back. Um, we were able to connect differently, like at Christmas time or leading up to Christmas. Projects like working with the churches to have gifts for inmates' children. That was done. Prison. We had a lot of different community groups come out of nowhere and start to offer things for the chapel that we might have needed, um, either prayer support. I had so many people come along for prayer support in that. And so asking and being willing to share what was needed in the run of a day or in the run of a week. That was a new thing.
Mm,
Our our most famous one for the jail has always been our Christmas event, which was drastically different this year. Normally we bring in live music and everyone comes down to the gym and we do 5 back-to-back services and it's just a party kind of environment. This year I mourned that because it changed, and yet watching as it came together in a new way, we may actually incorporate some of it into the new year uh,
mm,
for the future. So this year, instead of using the gym, I actually had a number of inmates come and decorate the chapel, and they each got a different section of the wall,
mm,
or each unit. That was fantastic to see them
mhm,
kind of get the theme and work together with it, and to see what the others were their units. Took a bit to get going, but for some of these guys in particular, art had not been something they'd been able to do while they were inside. And so
mm,
just being able to be creative, and some of them it was a reconnection for their children. Look at this. I did this. I'd be doing this with my children at home, and the
mm,
tears would come,
mm,
but then it would be kind of therapeutic as well.
mm,
Um, got the Christmas music going, a little eggnog, maybe a couple candy canes, that
mhm.
kind of thing. Get back to the unit. Um,
Yeah.
was something that was really good. And then you'll see in a video, the chapel looked like.
Yeah.
I was very, very proud of that. And Chaplain Dawn, I had a bit of a health crisis there in December, actually, and thought I had COVID myself. I got pretty sick, and so I had to take some time off just before things got going. And he stepped right up, and he led all the services for the next couple of weeks. So instead of 5, we had to break it up, and we did our 14 services essentially, especially Christmas. And he led everyone. He put together the music videos, and he put together all the beautiful things. And it was great to see his gifts and skills coming through in that area. So we're going to use some of that next year. We're going to use the things that we learned in that in the future. Yeah.
I'm as we're having this conversation, I mean, one of the lines that comes to mind is from a Matt Redman song, "The Heart of Worship," and the phrase "when all is stripped away," right? And when we have things that are taken away from us, we don't want to have taken away from us, or things change, then we find that we're not destitute, right? There's things there that we can rebuild and that bring a lot of meaning. So yeah, that's really neat that you've been able to provide that opportunity and are finding that as well. Like you said, immediately following this interview, there's going to be a video that plays that shows the decorations that the inmates did on all the walls, put to Christmas music. And so stay tuned at the end of the interview, and that will play right through. So yeah, so that'll be great to see.
I should say that all of those treat bags, sorry, I interrupted.
Yeah, no,
all of the treat bags that were part of that, that you'll see at the end of the video, those were all donated by kids in the community too. And then churches and community groups all over the place filled them. That was fantastic. And I got to speak at a high school this year. That was a new one as well. And hearing their input, and they put a letter into each bag of letting people know that they're praying for them. And those were really good new things. And things that I'm going to hold on to with my heart for a long time.
Yeah, that's great. That's really great. Well, thank you for taking the time to talk with us today, Anna. We're really grateful for you, for your family, for your ministry, and for the ministry of Chaplain Dawn at the Lethbridge Correctional Centre. And yeah, we're really grateful that you could take the time to share with us today.
Thanks, Mark.